Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. I would like to briefly explain what I would suggest to victims that they do now in this insane war that the intelligence agencies have declared on us, on civil society and on us victims. What we have to do, as I explained in the previous video, just to recap, we have essentially the intelligence agencies for sure, but other systems as well, like hospitals even, but certainly the police and even the judiciary, in what looks like capture, if not even deep capture. The intelligence agencies for sure seem to be in utter deep capture. So is the police. With hospitals it looks more like capture. It's hard to say also with the judiciary. And it's even though you can have deep capture at the levels that we access in civil society, most of the time you have a mix of these states. So ignore this bit for now and just look at the organization. What you essentially have here, even in capture typically, is that some parts are entirely captured, like here. So when you approach an organization, you approach it from below, and you approach the department, you very rarely approach the top, the CEO. And then you might find departments, or say police departments, which are entirely captured, other police departments where there's some person or some people on your side, other police departments which are not captured entirely, but you might just be up against a rotten apple who's got his own issues and is just maybe nasty for his own reasons, nothing to do with capture. And you will find units which are entirely uncaptured. And if you look at all these different constellations, even if you have an organization in deep capture, it looks utterly hopeless, because what you will hear in the media is reports about crimes committed by this unit, by that unit, and that unit. It doesn't mean it's hopeless. I don't think there's an organization in the world that is entirely in deep capture. Maybe, but even I think organized crime has got some people who are in organized crime because they have to be, but they are not psychopaths and they would rather do something else. So it's nigh on impossible to have an organization entirely captured, right? So that is what we're going to do now. We're going to recapture these bits. So when you're up against somebody who just doesn't play ball and you detect some irregularity, with the methods of the recapture that I emphasized several times, you work hard until they behave. Oops, that's the magnet that doesn't work. Until they behave how they should, right? And then you have recaptured them, and you continue, and then you find the parts where people are receptible. But in a sense, you have to, in the original state, you have to go through and in a sense ping the system everywhere. So you kind of prod them, and it's like, does it work? Can I get through? Yes, I can get to this stage. The people who approach these parts get further. This person gets blocked, has to do some work. That person gets further. Here, you have to do some serious work, but even so, you can start working one person until they give in, and then bit by bit, you claw back the organization. And this is what we're going to do. How can you tell that somebody is captured? And remember, capture could also mean genuine, stupidity or having their own issues. They're just being nasty and not cooperative because they have, a sick child or divorce proceedings, or they're just a bit of a grumpy person. That can happen. Don't, lob their head off. That's not what this is about. It's about forcing the system back, yanking it back into working order, literally using the force we can exert on it, being many, many independent people, to yank it back to how it should be, right? So, and we have to look out for each other, but we don't have to interlink and found, organizations and things like that. So what we're going to do is essentially yank the system back into working order. But you have to be careful. So you work with people and always work with them assuming that they are doing everything right and the corruption comes from the top. Don't do the other thing of automatically assuming that they are all in deep capture and they are all criminals, because then you will approach somebody and you will think you're over here and you will think it's hopeless, even though it's not, even though you could get what you wanted, right? If you just work a bit, you could get what you wanted and it's okay. Here, it's a lot more work, right? But doesn't matter. So in the beginning, when you just approach the organization, you only see this bit. Not even that, you only see the person who you approach. Sometimes you find nice people, sometimes nasty people who are totally captured, sometimes nasty people where there's no capture above them, they're just nasty. So be careful, okay? So don't, and it's also a psychological thing. If you just assume that, oh my God, they're controlling everything, you're giving them much more power than they actually have. you then in this region, you also assume that this is entirely captured, even though it's not. Okay, and so on and so on. And remember that in most of our public institutions, it's not a flat hierarchy. This was fairly flat. It can extend to 12 levels. So you can get a lot of it done already, also bypassing here the deep captured levels. Sometimes there are interconnections here, and you can get a lot of things done already at a lower level. So this is the rough idea, okay? And as I said, we're going to now start reclaiming our institutions. That's the hospitals. Why are doctors, screwing up? Why are they implanting people? Why are they doing weird tests? I even heard reports of, essentially a victim of the intelligence agencies just going for a routine thing into a hospital, seeing how weird things are being done to him, and then overhearing the doctor telling the other patients in the room that he's crazy. I mean, that is sabotage, right? That is actual sabotage. And they know that if they tell other people, they prime them. This is called priming. Look it up, priming. You just preset someone's expectations, so they will then, once they have these expectations, try to morph everything to their prior expectations, And that's a classic trick, used by the intelligence agencies non-stop. Doesn't matter, we can use it ourselves as well for good things. So we're going to ratchet to this. But all of this corruption has to be tidied up, and we have to do it ourselves. The system will not repair itself unless we, the people who are victims, the people who are pissed off about it, and the people who were damaged and harmed by these systems in other ways, be that child abuse because you lost your home, because your business went bankrupt, because the banks didn't give you another loan, because you literally experienced direct sabotage by the intelligence agencies, or other financial weird shenanigans you became the victim of, payday lenders, and were bankrupted by bank charges, payment protection insurance in the UK, for example. There are many, many ways this criminal cartel has harmed us all. And what we have to do is all of us work in each other's interest and help each other to return. We're basically all facing with our, our snouts in the same direction, like, hounds, because we know what the rule of law looks like. We also know what corruption looks like, and that's the opposite direction. We can smell bullshit from a mile, and we have to fight that. So what we have to do is essentially listen to each other, understand what we're trying to do, and connect in that sense. We don't have to have rigid connections. In fact, we have to have decentralized, autonomous little units who are all working in the same direction. And we can be working all on different things, but we all have to enforce rule of law, fair play, right? Absolutely no criminality and no corruption. As soon as we meet corruption, we fight it. So this is what we're doing. Now, dear victims, what are you going to do? What I say that you do is next week, sit down and write up your victim testimony. If you've been targeted for years, it will take you maybe weeks and weeks and weeks to do that. But start this endeavor this weekend. Sit down, open a Word document, or on a computer, and every single time you write a page, you make a backup copy. Okay, when you finish the page, just print it off. If there's any sabotage, you can retype it. It's a bit of hassle, but it's not as bad as losing it. So you make copies. Also, if you're now tackling this, check if your computer has a CD deck, and if you can burn CDs with it. If you can't, go on these online sites and buy yourself a CD burner, which you can stick in, I think, with a USB stick even. If your laptop doesn't have a CD burner, buy one. Because actually physically burning data into a physical CD is such that people can hack your computer as long as they like, but they cannot rewrite this. A written CD cannot be rewritten. Maybe there are ways to just, hack the CD writing deck and then overwrite it, but that you will notice. So in and that you can also prove in court, by the way. So that they would then generate extra evidence. But what you should do now is start generating hard copy evidence. This should be printouts and burned CDs. Printouts and burned CDs. And it's overwhelming being a victim, but just go systematically. Start with whatever. And I would say you open a file, right? And you can even start, before you even know who you're going to address it to, you might not know what court it is and so on. You can just start with, to whom it may concern, right? Whatever, the general address. And then you say, this is the victim testimony of, and your name, and ideally your address, right? Later on, if you're happy publishing that, remove your private address, right? But for now, write it down, and then you say the following, and you do numbered paragraphs, because then you can just, like a module, replace one paragraph and everything else stays. But essentially just group your thoughts into little paragraphs. So first, who are you? Second, what do you do? Third, when did the targeting start? Fourth, do you think who did that? And even the when did the targeting start might be 16 paragraphs. It doesn't matter. You just write as it comes to your mind, and if you use numbered paragraphs, you can always put stuff in between, right? And then most word processing documents allow you to create a PDF that you can't modify by accident, right? And then you burn that PDF and maybe even the original Word file on CD. You make backup copies. Okay, and buy burnable CDs. Honestly, external hard drives can be overwritten through a hack in a second. If you want to overwrite a burned CD, takes a bit more work, right? But they are safe. And you can take the burned CD and you can put it into a bank safe because it's very thin, right? But if you actually have an external hard drive, you might put it into a bank safe and realize that, when you get it out, there was a hack and actually the data was overwritten. So external hard drives are not as safe as burned CDs. And yes, I know for videos you need many, many CDs, but so be it. They're actually quite cheap. But this is really good protective measure. Buy yourself a printer and buy yourself printing paper and also print stuff off. Buy yourself a folder and start putting it in, right? Systematically. And buy these dividers inside, and have different categories, maybe information about yourself, maybe things that you can use to prove yourself, your education, where you worked when all this started, put the proof there. Next thing is maybe evidence about that particular targeting, and so on, so that you can easier find it, and actually take pride in systematically mapping it out. And as you're mapping it out, do it such as if you had to explain the whole thing to another person who's never heard about that. Okay, so I would like you to start off with collecting your personal evidence, and then also, as you're doing it, maybe you have ideas, and maybe you think, oh, I maybe have to convince people how this technology works. Have a separate section for technology in your document also. If you're writing that as well, either have a separate document for anything about it, evidence about general evidence, not your personal evidence about the technology or gang stalking. In the Word document, write down references to YouTube videos that might contain evidence. If you can download the YouTube videos, there's software that allows you to do that. You can just search online and you can pull it out, make backup copies of those. And I would say, as a rough guide, if you have, it's not your personal evidence, it is YouTube videos, then in my experience, YouTube videos stay on for a very long time. So putting a second copy onto an actual external hard drive, because they can accommodate more, is okay, right? So this is about your personal evidence. Your personal evidence has to be burnt on CD. Medical records, anything that proves this, you have to have the originals or request a copy from your doctors, right? And then scan a copy, have a digital copy as well, and then burn that onto CD. So put your evidence into different places. But basically, I would say next week, start writing your victim testimony, because we are going to court cases. And why? Because the courts are the only institution in our society that can actually stop the government from doing anything. Unfortunately, this is how it is. And the secret services are still government organizations. They are accountable. You can take them to court. And we have to start there. But wherever you are in the world, also if you think you're in a country where you're the only targeted individual, or the only victim of the secret services, it most certainly won't be the case. So please, even if you feel totally alone now, you're not. Start up with this. And there might also be ways to essentially appeal to international courts, to actually have your case heard. And there will be class actions now. We now know there are thousands and thousands of victims. These abuses have gone on for decades. They were horrific. They were crimes against humanity, and they destroyed lives. They even killed people. They drove people to suicide. They mutilated them. They destroyed entire families, entire generations. And these intelligence agencies seem to be set up that once they target you, they target you until the end of your life, because they have never ever been made to stop, ever, in the history of mankind. And now is the time. Now we all say enough is enough. There will be no more secrecy because these people could not be trusted with secrecy. So we're now moving to full transparency, if they like it or not. That's just what the internet mathematics says. We are all moving to total disclosure. Doesn't matter what they think. So this is it. So start writing your victim testimony. Number one. Actually, this is, I should write it up. So what I want you to do is, first of all, right, this weekend, okay, open a Word document and start writing your victim testimony. And then someone actually pointed out, I even said, even if they attack you, still write it. And then someone said, why should I write it if they attack me? Well, the point of being a victim is that they keep attacking you and maybe have attacked you for months or years before you ever wrote a victim testimony. Did not writing a victim testimony do you any good? No. So now please do write one, because we have to get out of this state. Second, also start collecting evidence. This is, I mean, it's a daunting task at first, but it's not that bad. And you get it off your soul by writing it down, what they've done to you. It's like, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. And put it into bullet points, and first of all, state what has happened and separate it out from then how you interpret it. So this is what happened, one paragraph, and then you can say things like, this led me to believe that, therefore I allege that, you know. You can say, well, I every single time I went into my living room, this happens to me, for example, I receive very, very painful shots to the side of my head or my body that is facing the window. Therefore, and then, you know, second paragraph, therefore I allege that my neighbor has a microwave transmitter placed at his property and is shooting at me from there. You can write that down, because your observations are valuable. Yes, the intelligence agencies will use deception, but then if you discover something else and you learn, you only have to modify that one paragraph, you know, and then you can say, well, based on what I've now know, maybe the transmitter was actually placed behind my bookcase or something like that, you know. I mean, then it's very modular, and just write it like that. Also have maybe a version whereby if you make a PDF file, put the date stamp. So first of all, the victim testimony, right? Always does it here, back it up, okay? Back up, so you can have individual printouts, you know, paper, CD, and so on. And make backups. And also, if you have a CD, you can put it into a bank safe. If you're such a high profile target that you think that they will go into your bank safe because the police in principle can access your bank safe, then just hide it, put it in your bank safe and elsewhere. Have one CD at home, you know, hide one at your, I don't know, Auntie Mary's next time you're over there in coffee. Just hide it in one of her books, right? Maybe put a note on, if she finds it, a post-it note saying, you know, sorry Auntie, this belongs to me. Can you please take care of this? It's kind of important. You know, something, think of something. There's a million ways you can hide this stuff, and don't think that these people are omnipotent, because they really aren't. Frankly, they're a bunch of weaponized morons most of the time. So don't you worry. There will be a million ways around their bullshit. So, you know, keep going and keep going. If they do any sabotage, remember, in my experience, they can never sabotage everything. But they will try to sabotage everything you do at least once, right? So if you send emails or use email, like everybody does, they will sabotage your email account. Maybe they sabotaged mine when I was trying to prepare my court case. Okay, but my email inbox since then seems to work fine. So I will not think, oh my God, that's it, I can never use email ever again. If they deface your Facebook page, which we know it has been leaked that this is also one of the things, for example, GCHQ does, doesn't matter. You correct it, you take a screenshot, you note it down, it goes into your evidence, right, with a date, the actual file, and then it's part of your evidence, okay? And then you continue. And you keep going back. And also the other thing is, if there's something really important that they don't want you to do, that's where you will get the most sabotage. So think, if your Facebook is being sabotaged over and over, it seems like you're reaching out to a lot of people and they're trying to scratch your reputation. Make a video and say, my Facebook keeps being sabotaged. Or, you know, Make a post about it, show people how it has been sabotaged, and then they reveal if they wanted to humiliate you, if they wanted to smear you, that's all evidence, and show the world. Whatever bullshit they do, show the world. Bounce it back at them. Throw it back at them, like, look at what they've done, you know, and keep going. And it goes all into your evidence. Now, what do I mean by evidence? This could be videos you made with your phone, audio recordings you made with your phone, covert recordings you made with a dictaphone. Don't worry if you can use it in court or not. The lawyers will figure that out. Collect the evidence first, worry about that later. Photographs from cameras, even hand drawings. If you've, you know, there's a scene and you want to describe how it really looked, make a hand drawing, you know, scan it and have a digital format of this as well. If you don't have a scanner, they are fairly cheap these days. So you can have scanners you can put in with USB. It's not that expensive. And if you need something, don't panic and think, oh my God, it costs money. If you need to raise money, open a crowdfunding website and say, I just need to buy some electronics, you know, please someone help. I'm preparing for a court case. I need a scanner. Raise $50 or raise $300, whatever you need. But don't panic. If you reach a point where you can't go further, reach out for help. Do not stop. If you need that, you go and get it one way or another. Okay? And the other thing is, don't be ashamed to talk about it. So once you have these victim testimonies and the evidence, I would say the evidence, you can order it thematically. You could say, okay, these are all the instances of electronic hacking, and then do it kind of chronologically in between, like this the first time and that time and that time. You know, and then you can have stalking, electronic harassment, medical sabotage, all these different things that you experienced, or you can do the whole thing just chronologically. It doesn't matter. So you can say, this day that happened, that day I was medically sabotaged, and so on and so on. And then maybe label that particular incidents as something. You know, if you've got bulleted paragraphs, maybe the first line would be, you know, fourth, you know, medical sabotage again. And then you list everything. You know, you can also have other formats whereby if a lot of things happen to you, like to me, there's tons of stuff happening to me every single day, and you want to be very detailed, you can literally open a Word file and have one page. I mean, because it's digital, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can have 600 pages, it doesn't matter. You can have 1 page per day or 2 pages per day with detailed descriptions all together that every day can be analyzed. And in most word processing software, you can also have an index at the front where every single, then you have a detailed index and maybe a short title of what happened that day. And then your index is almost like a quick, brief diary. So there are many, many ways, but do not feel ashamed to write it out in detail what happened to you. You know, do not be ashamed to actually have to do this. Do not be cowed, do not be intimidated. If they use voice to skull and they try to keep you from this, analyze exactly what they're saying. Are they working really hard to prevent you from doing this? You know, if they are, tell them to screw themselves, really, and just continue. You know, remember what you should do to help yourself. That is exactly what will be targeted the most. So, collect the evidence. Then the other thing is also, don't be too passive. We're trying to move to class actions everywhere around the world. In Canada, I think there's one assembled. In the US, one is assembling. But also, do not shy away from emailing yourself lawyers and ask, would you be willing to represent me? Email human rights lawyers. If you don't have money, that's not a reason. Say, this is my situation. They have economically destroyed me. What are the options? Ask the lawyers, what are the options? Can you help me? And then you have the choice of, do you want to go into court as a case on your own or as a part of a class action? Whatever you're comfortable with. But I would recommend, go through this step of contacting lawyers. Briefly describe what happened to you. If they don't believe you, refer them to other people who have talked about this, you know, and quite publicly. But this is what we're now doing. This is, I'm telling you now, officially, there are really big cases rolling up, and people can decide, will they go to court themselves individually or will they join a class action? Both of them have their advantages. I think with class actions, you can essentially, you have a lot of clout. You can look at all the many cases, but then also maybe your case will be swamped by others. And maybe also, you know, if it's a class action, then again we've got this pyramid structure which can be hijacked. You know, it's all eggs in one basket. So I would recommend we do a mix of both. That's my gut feeling, you know. I really think so. And then, but it's up to it. I'm not telling anybody anything. These are my personal opinions. The point is we're all decentralized, completely decoupled, and we're all now clawing away at this problem from all sides like a pack of hounds. So I'm not telling you anything, but I think all of us victims have to write a victim testimony. All of us have to collect evidence, really. And then also, what I would say, this weekend also write letters to, how far can I write so that you can read it? So letters to doctors, etc., a psychiatrist if you have one, and so on, or the police, and then request your file. And how do you write that? It's actually dead simple. You open a Word document or whatever word processing document you have. You write, your address, the address of the person, the name and address of the person you're addressing this to, subject line, requesting my patient file or requesting my crime report, and then you say, if you have a crime number or some patient number or some sort of identification, say, what I would like is to request my crime report, for example, for something that I reported under the report number X, if you have some number, or you say, I would like to request my patient file. Could you please send me all the information you hold about me, about my past interactions with you, past medical tests, and all the medical, the results of medical tests that you hold for my case. Please send me a copy. And request that from all your doctors that were involved in this case. And this could be many things. I mean, depending on what sort of problems you have, it could be dental. If you think you have some implants or something, other medical doctors, anything that has something to do with your targeting. Maybe even if you're you don't know yet because you haven't found out. Because sometimes, unfortunately, it happened certainly in my case, that I had medical issues and then later on I discovered that they were due to electromagnetic weapons, But it's a good thing if you have a copy. Again, buy a folder, put it in there, right? This is your file. And again, make backup copies so that you cannot be sabotaged. Keep a physical copy, scan it, make a digital copy, put it away, But now, write a letter. Composing a letter like that takes you literally 5 minutes. I mean, it sounds really daunting at first, but honestly, can you write your name and address? Sure you can. Can you Google and figure out your doctor's name and address? Yeah, in 5 seconds. And then subject line, requesting my file, and then blah, blah, blah. Dear sir, madam, here with, I would like to request my file, blah. And then you just write, yours sincerely and your name, and you sign it, and that's it. Print it off and sign it, and send it, okay? And then you have all the information you need. Now, collecting the evidence you already have, and maybe if it's ongoing, start collecting evidence, might be more involved, but do it bit by bit. You will get there. Victim testimony also might take you a lot of time, but once you get started, it's actually quite therapeutic, and it puts everything that happened to you in context. And when I started writing my victim testimony, that's for the first time I realized, gee, they actually did something to me every second day. And I could see how it started first, like gradually, and in the end it just ramped up to non-stop assaults every 60 seconds as these people went absolutely mental. And that's the program. It's essentially testing how much can you take before you raise all hell, right? And unfortunately, I was so slow in replying. I should have literally raised all frickin' hell in the very first week and complained to all and sundry. Unfortunately, I didn't. Then again, I actually discovered what this program really is, which is a total maiming and mutilation and murder program. So, anyway, this is what we do, okay? So this is what we start doing this weekend. And then next week, right, when all the officials are back at work, what you'll do, I suggest, you don't have to do anything, but I would suggest you do the following. You start calling lawyers and you start asking, would anybody like to advise you for free if you don't have any money? you know, what are the options? And you just call them, you know, look them up, call the first one, and with every phone call, you don't have to take the first one, you just call, right? With every phone call, you will get ever more skilled in explaining what's happening to you, and you will get better and better in understanding how to talk to them. And there are literally thousands of lawyers in the land. One of them will help you and give you some information. Do not respond to things like, oh my God, there will be no way for you to prove that. I'm very sorry, but over a phone call, these people cannot tell, right? Keep in mind that most of them will have never heard about microwave weapons and don't have the first flaming clue what they are. But things that you can tell them is essentially the truth, that microwave weapons have been developed already back in the 40s and 50s, if not way before then. They are now advertised and sold online prolifically, very cheaply. There's extensive documentation, there are many leaks, there are whistleblower statements about their use, and there are thousands and thousands of victims, and it's now being rolled up. It's now being essentially publicly rolled up, and this is where we're moving to. And you can say to these lawyers, well, you know, these are human rights offenses, crimes against humanity. There are many, many victims, even if you're not an expert in this. I can explain to you in detail what has happened to me. You will find many, many other parallels. And most importantly, you will, once you actually get your head around this, there will be literally thousands of victims. And essentially crimes against humanity might be, you know, hard to prove maybe in the beginning, but as more and more victims come forward, and keep in mind that these court cases will have their own timescale. So by the time you will actually, you know, appear in court, not you as a, you know, as a defendant, but, you know, your lawyer will take these bastards to court. By that time, we will know publicly so much about these crimes. You do not actually have to worry about the nitty-gritty of how to prove it. Okay, we will put information public, and with we I mean the entire community of the world, right? More and more information will be put public that you can then pass to your lawyers. So do not worry about every last detail, but you can tell them these are crimes against humanity. Thousands of victims are known. These crimes are kind of difficult at first to understand, but because they're being rolled out across so many thousands of victims, in fact, it's actually with this amount of data, it's fairly easy to reverse engineer what the hell has been done here. Okay, and there are now some big dogs working on exactly that, reverse engineering of what the fuck just happened in our society. Okay, so don't worry about that. And then you can say, well, this is a pretty standard human rights issue by now. It's publicly being discussed on YouTube. Canada is now launching a class action. The US, people are preparing class actions, even plural. There are already known court cases about this in UK. There's Philip Kerr versus MI5, and there's my good self, which was Dr. Katherine Horton versus SIS, MI5 and GCHQ. There are court cases in Belgium I know about of genuine victims, and this is all being rolled up. And they were already publicly documented, over 150 court cases about this back in 2002 in Germany. So there's plenty of material. But if your lawyer needs encouragement, tell them that yes, this is a pretty big thing. This is essentially crimes against humanity on a massive scale, which is now becoming public, and ergo it will be a gold mine for these lawyers. Any human rights lawyer is actually willing to just invest a weekend into wrapping their head around what has happened. It's not that hard. It's not like, you know, I don't know, trying to unravel really complex commercial contracts between banks and figuring out where exactly the fraud occurred in complex, you know, derivative-like structures. It's nothing like that complicated, okay? And lawyers are used to having to wrap their head around technical details, because they might take cases from, you know, the air industry and have to learn about nitty-gritty technical details about planes and so on. So that's not a big deal. But for them, it's as good as a home run, essentially, right? They just need to give you a bit of support. And then if they're not willing to actually represent you in court, ask them, would they be willing on a pro bono basis to assist you with just writing to the police departments? Because if you're anything like me, I requested my crime report from Greater Manchester Police absolutely weeks and weeks ago, before Christmas, and I'm still waiting. So I'm going to increase now the heat under these, you know, gentlemen's backside. But if you have a lawyer who can help you do that, that's excellent. And do not be shy to approach them. So that's what I'm saying. Call lawyers. Okay? Also, if you're unhappy with your doctor, don't be shy going to other doctors. Okay? If you can, if your health coverage allows that, go to other types of doctors and talk to them. And again, now there's absolutely no excuse for them not to wrap their head around the fact that these crimes exist. Okay? So this is what you do. Call doctors, find other lawyers, find people who can help you. And this is now the direction that we're moving in. Then the other thing I said last time, which is you might be in absolutely dire financial straits and so on. Actually, sorry, before I go on, the other thing is also, next week, make a conscious effort of spreading this information, the news about this. You can call lawyers. I would say also start calling officials and police departments, maybe not even your own. And what you can also do, which will be jolly helpful, if you can, this means call officials and police. What would jolly actually assist us is if all of the victims would now start actually speaking up about these. You don't have to go public, you don't have to make a YouTube video, or although that would really help us, us as a community, because then we see just how prolific they were. If you're comfortable, you can. But if you're not, you can also spread information by just retweeting things that other victims are tweeting, to spread it. Maybe be creative about who to tweet it to. But you can also start calling officials, even if you don't want to go to the police department and report crimes. Call up the police and say, by the way, what is your procedure for dealing with microwave weapon attacks? And then if they say, well, are you attacked? Then you can say, well, even if you are and you don't want to get involved with them, you say, well, it's not about me right now. It's a friend of mine who's really scared. And I just want to ask, what is your protocol? Do you just section everybody, or are you already dealing with these? And just continue. And if you're scared of calling your local police, call another police department somewhere else in the country. But the point is that now we have to club together and start pinging these people. And if they say, well, we don't really have any procedures to deal with microwave attacks, you say, well, why not? They're being sold on the internet apparently really cheaply. When are you going to start putting things into place? Already a phone call like that would absolutely just shake the earth, right? Especially if you're not directly involved. So if you don't want to call your local police, call one in another state, right? Or call some other police chief, and you can literally just essentially bounce back and forth and start pinging the system. But if you've got any spare credit on your phone at the end of the month, any spare free minutes, this would be a very good investment into our civil society if you could do that. Literally just call them. Call the people who would be in charge of all this. And with officials, this could be your local officials. Be creative about who that is. Anybody who you think needs to know about this, who can do something about it. And also the other thing is, we have to write to the heads of the professional associations, like the Professional Association of Psychiatrists. They have ignored voice to skull for absolutely decades. And we have to create a situation whereby they cannot ignore it any longer. So we have to write to them, and we have to say, we want to inform you about essentially the existence of this technology. Please inform your members. And if you make this letter public to them, then after that there's absolutely no excuse for them and for their members not to know about this. So we have to use the mechanisms built into all these organizations. We never knew that they had these mechanisms, but we need to find out. And certainly doctors, but also psychiatrists, have got duties towards their patients, which is essentially duty of care, right? And the doctors also, first do no harm, right? So that is an oath that they swear, and we have to hold them to it. So, but there are many, many ways you can actually help us. So call lawyers for your own sake, call officials and police officers for your own case, or else, call officials and police officers just elsewhere, that would also help and actually get them going. And if they're in a different state to you, then they can't even get at you, right? I mean, they can track the phone call, and then so what, So anyway, that's another thing to do. Then also make an active effort to just retweet, and not just retweet messages to your followers who might be targeted, but tweet things at people who are outside of your circle. So spread messages outside, and with tweets you can just tweet at somebody else and just put it out there. Don't worry about if your tweet gets read or not. People are curious, but just spread the info. So basically, spread information outside the TI community. I mean, I will call it the victim community. Victim. Okay, and this is important because you don't need to tell other victims now. We all know how horrifically we're suffering. We're now moving to what the hell to do about it. Okay, so this thing is all for court cases, right? Get started, and next week literally do this and start reaching out. And just, don't worry about it. We'll get there. So this is now for the victims. I hope this helps. As I said, this is just suggestions. You don't have to do what I'm saying. And also an ideal thing would be is if you get together in groups who you trust. And these groups don't have to be all victims. Club together with people you trust who are willing to support you in little groups. Think about what to do and move forward. And then if you want to, you can link up with other small groups, but you don't have to. Be decentralized, autonomous, right? I'm not telling you what to do. These are just suggestions, right? That's what I'll start doing next week. And these are just suggestions. But I would say, get a little bit of backing of people you actually trust, who inspire you, and otherwise just get creative yourself. Think about what you want to do. Oh yes, and then, sorry, I forgot one more thing. Yes, and that's what I wanted to do also. The other thing is, a lot of you, like myself, you have been essentially left financially destitute. In my case, they destroyed 2 business endeavors of mine. I'm now being non-stop assaulted. I'm essentially most of the time crippled by the assaults against me. And finances are a really big thing. But I would say what you do is you open, let's just try it. Let's open crowdfunding sites, okay? Because then later on we can also essentially draw attention to the fact that we have been turned destitute and say, look, if you want to help us, this is a really transparent way to do it, okay? If you don't like the crowdfunding websites, well, you can always just publish your, bank details and say, please make a donation straight to that, or any other form of donation. But, whatever you choose to do, I would also recommend that you start opening a crowdfunding site for yourself. Okay? And then you can say, what do you want? What do you want? And you can do it different ways. You can say, well, I would like to have crowdfunding to start a court case. Okay? That's totally fine. You can say, I would like to have crowdfunding for my court case and to pay my subsistence. Because of this problem, I've been left destitute. And do not be scared to say that, because this is what the intelligence agencies do. They essentially run takedown operations. Essentially, this is it, right? Total disintegration of your life. So that's normal, in inverted commas, in this messed up, insane world. But then, you can also say, well, they destroyed my business. I would like to restart it. Or, I was training to be a nurse, so I used to be a nurse and I lost my job. I would like to do this training and reapply to be a nurse. And then basically use your crowdfunding as your own motivation. That's what I would recommend. Where do you want to be by the end of 2017? Because I made this video whereby I showed you how we were trying to reinvert, to cycle the system and put you back to where you belong in society, and actually raise you up to the status that you acquired by just literally suffering this. Because what you have been put through is essentially a total ultimate stress test, an utter physical stress test, right? Which I think transcends everything they put the Navy SEALs through. Because if they were put through a TI program, I don't think there would be any Navy SEALs left by the end of it. So this is it, right? But you have to kind of allow us, give us some sort of way, humanity, to lift you out. So we need to know about you. Ideally, you come forward. You just don't be afraid. Do not be scared, right? They target you. They can target you because you're isolated, because people do not know about it. And yes, sometimes you go public like I do, and they continue targeting you, but it doesn't matter. We've just begun. We are now, going after them. But I would say also, tell the world where you want to be and actively ask for help and say, I want to be there, please, 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 please help. Okay, all of you, wherever you are, say what has been done. Did they involve you in a car accident and you lost your car, right? Or do you have medical expenses as a result? You don't have to specify what medical complaints. Say, well, as a result of my targeting, I had huge medical expenses and I need X amount of money to essentially get myself back to where I was, to undo the damage. Because this is what this is about. It's about undoing the damage, it's about repair, it's about healing, it's about putting you back where you belong, right? And then essentially giving you a position where you can inspire others to reach this. We can overcome this, right? We can overcome everything that they have done to us. We can heal, we can get back, and we will get back. And by the end of 2017, we all have to be back to where we were. And that's essentially the goal, right? We don't have much time left, which is why we're starting now. Okay, so it's already, the year has started. I don't know why the hell it took me so much time to actually get to this point, but this is what we're doing. We're moving to court cases, we're going after these criminals, right? But what you should do to really assist us here is tell us what happened so that it can be used for a court case, so that the judge can actually also give you compensation. Now it's very important. It's not just about stopping these bastards. It's about getting your rightful compensation. Only a court can award compensation, right? And that's why we're moving there, all together, okay? So for that, please write a victim testimony. Please collect your evidence. Don't worry about if it's not good enough or you think, oh my God, no one's going to believe me. Oh, trust me, I myself have experienced so much shit. I don't put anything past them. Right? If you come with, space aliens and they've abducted you, well, there I might struggle, but I would then assume that the intelligence agencies put on a show, for you and they've abducted you. So either way, right, your evidence is gonna count. And all this weird brain interference, they've done it with me. I can tell you in greatest detail what weird things they did to my head. I know that they can do it. And we also have the patterns. We know now that they can do it, and we're in the process of figuring out how exactly they did it. Okay, so do not be shy. Just write down everything that you can remember. And do not be shy to name names, because so much is about clearing out the corrupt bastards in our system. And also, if you've literally been assaulted by someone really powerful, right, of course it's going to be someone really powerful, because they are the total psychopaths, statistically speaking. Right? Of course there will be some people who will be really powerful, right? Do not be ashamed to name names. No one in our society is beyond the reach of the law. No one. And if people, manage to get away for a couple of years, well, we just got started. Okay? We just got started. And just name names. Say who did that to you. Who actually did that to you. Okay, put it all in. And then next week, as I said, reach out to lawyers yourself. Yes, there are class actions, but please don't be just passive like a tortoise on its back, right? And saying, oh, someone's going to do something for you. No, you. Please, 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 please call lawyers. And then also call officials and the police, right? To let them know that this is happening, right? If you've got no dealings with them, even better, call them and just let them know that this is happening. Right? And then, oh yes, this is something. Yes, spread information and then crowdfunding, right? Very, very, very important, I would say. And then the other thing I forgot to say is that maybe it would be best, call those, you can also send them emails and then back up the emails. If you make phone calls, that's okay. I would recommend you spend $15 or how much they cost on a dictaphone. Okay, and the dictaphone, an audio recorder. Maybe you have one on your phone and then you just use whatever free software you have on your phone. That's also fine, right? But you can buy a dictaphone with 8 gigabytes. I think you have 1,600 hours of audio or something like that, So you can you can fit years of your life onto this. But then also there is hang on. I think Philips sells one device which looks like headphones. These are just normal headphones, right? And if you want to record an actual phone call, these aren't just normal headphones now, but there's a type of headphone that I think Philips sells one, which has a microphone essentially This is what goes into your ear, but on the other side, there's also a microphone, sorry, not a microphone, but like a recorder. So the sound goes through, is recorded, or you can also hear it. And if you just put it in, right, and then make a phone call, you can essentially hear the phone call because the sound goes through, but it is also recorded. So you can record high quality phone conversations. That is what I do. And then it's just like a phone call. You just put it into your, either the the microphone slot of your laptop or your phone or wherever, and you can just record sound just like that. And I would say when you call officials, you can also write to them. And then use registered post and keep a copy. But when you call officials, record the phone conversation. Record the phone conversation. Every single time. This is now public interest. This is about stupendous corruption. Any evidence you have on them, record it. For your private purposes, as to jog your memory, you can record it, right? You might not be able to use it in court, but then again, you might also be able to do that, right? So please, 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 I would say record all that, right? And have the evidence to back up what you said, what they said, so that essentially any sort of corrupt people, anywhere, can be cleared out of the system. And that's also part of it. By the end of this, we want to have the victims compensated, restored, their health issues essentially, removed, right? Financially restored, these criminals brought to justice, and the system restored to health. So it should be green everywhere, ideally. I know getting the system entirely back to green looks like it's going to take decades, but a lot of these goals can be achieved actually quicker than you think. We just have to get going all together. So that's it. That's the plan for the victims. As I said, these are recommendations. I'm not your leader. I'm not your general. You will do your own thing. You will use your own creativity, and you'll come up with a million other ways to do this better than what I suggested. This is to get you started to think about this. Okay? So that's it for now. Please, dear victims, get going. We need you all, right? We all need to stick together. Bye for now.